Carl Jung left us an invaluable legacy in understanding the human soul. His work on the unconscious, the shadow, and individuation has been key for those seeking deeper answers about their existence. But among all his studies, there's one that remains essential to understanding our own happiness: the inner child. Jung believed that inside every adult, there's a child who never disappears, but hides beneath layers of conditioning, trauma, and life experiences. It's that part of us that once felt wonder for life, that saw the world with curious and excited eyes, but over time was silenced. As we grow, we learn to take on roles, follow rules, and fit into what society expects of us. But in that process, without realizing it, we leave behind who we really are. The inner child is the source of our creativity, our joy, and our ability to marvel at life. Yet, it's also the keeper of our deepest wounds. When we experience rejection, abandonment, or emotional pain in childhood, that child gets marked. Those wounds don't fade with time. They just hide deep within our psyche, showing up in our adult lives in subtle but powerful ways. Destructive relationships, self-sabotage, fear of rejection, inability to set boundaries, all these are reflections of a wounded inner child still crying out to be heard. Jung understood that true happiness isn't found in accumulating material possessions or external validation, but in integrating all parts of our being. And within that integration, healing the inner child is fundamental. Because if we keep ignoring its wounds, those repressed emotions will continue operating in the shadows, influencing our decisions, relationships, and emotional well-being without us even noticing. Think about the times you've felt an unexplained emptiness, like something's missing but you don't know what. Or those moments when an intense emotion comes out of nowhere, making you overreact to situations that don't warrant it. That's your inner child trying to be heard. It's that little one inside you who still remembers the pain of the past and, instead of being comforted, has been ignored and pushed down. Reconnecting with your inner child isn't easy, but it's one of the most transformative paths you can take. It takes courage because it means facing the parts of yourself you'd rather forget. But when you do, something powerful happens. You start breaking free from destructive patterns. You regain the ability to enjoy life without guilt, and you find an inner peace that doesn't depend on external factors. Imagine for a moment that you could talk to your younger self. What would you say? How would you comfort them in the moments they felt alone, misunderstood, or scared? Now imagine that conversation isn't just a mental exercise, but a real tool for healing. Because that's exactly what Jung taught us. The possibility of having a dialogue with our unconscious, and within it, with that child still waiting to be seen. Many think healing the inner child is just symbolic, a simple metaphor. But Jung showed us that the unconscious doesn't distinguish between what's real and what's imagined. It responds to the images and the emotional intention behind them. That's why when we give ourselves permission to connect with our inner child, to offer it the love and validation it maybe never got, the impact on our life is real and tangible. But here's something you need to know. This process isn't just about reliving the past. It's about transforming the present. We can't change what happened, but we can change how those experiences affect us today. Because when you choose to embrace your inner child instead of rejecting it, when you let it exist without shame or guilt, you allow it to flourish. And in that flourishing, you find the key to your happiness. Jung said the work of the soul is a process of individuation, a journey toward wholeness where we integrate all our parts, the light and the shadow, the adult and the child, the conscious and the unconscious. And when we achieve that integration, something incredible happens. We stop living from fear, from lack, or from the need for external validation, and we start living from our purest essence. The inner child isn't just a part of you, it's the heart of your being. It's the voice whispering what you truly desire, what fills you with life, what makes you feel free. And if you learn to listen to it, you'll discover that happiness was never outside of you. It was within, waiting for you to come home. When we ignore our inner child, when we let it stay trapped in past pain without acknowledging its existence, our adult life becomes a repetition of those same suffering patterns. We end up in relationships that make us feel inadequate. We seek approval from others at any cost, or we become harshly critical of ourselves, unable to allow even the smallest mistake. But what's really happening is we're replaying the script we learned in childhood, without realizing there's another option. The key to this process is awareness. Jung taught us that the unconscious governs much of our life without us noticing. The way we love, how we react to rejection, how we seek safety, all of it is shaped by experiences we've often consciously forgotten, but that still live inside us. The inner child is the part of our psyche holding those memories, and if we don't stop to listen, it'll keep trying to be recognized the only way it knows how, by repeating the same experiences over and over until we finally pay attention. How many times have you felt betrayed by someone and thought it was entirely their fault? Or felt like no one understands you, that no one gives you the love you deserve, without realizing you might be denying yourself that love? When we don't heal our inner child, we look to others for what we were denied in childhood. We want our partner to make us feel valued, our friends to fill the void inside, our career success to give us the validation we didn't get at home. But the truth is, nothing external can fill that space. Only we can. This is the moment to ask yourself, in what areas of my life am I still seeking outside what I should find within? Where am I repeating the same pain without realizing it? These questions might feel uncomfortable, but they're also the first step toward real transformation. Because when you start looking inward, when you decide to face the wounds instead of running from them, you begin to reclaim your power. Jung showed us that true maturity isn't about suppressing the inner child. It's about integrating it. It's not about becoming cold, calculating adults who've buried their vulnerable side, but about learning to care for that child from a new perspective. Imagine this for a moment. If you had a son or a little sibling who was hurting, how would you treat them? Would you tell them to ignore their pain, to stop overreacting, that it's not a big deal? Or would you hug them, speak to them with love, make them feel safe? That's exactly how we need to treat ourselves. The problem is, we've often been so hard on ourselves for so long that we can't even imagine what it means to treat ourselves with compassion. We punish ourselves for every mistake, demand perfection, say things to ourselves we'd never say to someone we love. But here's the truth. The path to happiness isn't through self-criticism, it's through self-acceptance. And accepting our inner child, with all its wounds, fears, and desires, is the greatest act of self-love we can offer. Imagine for a moment that instead of ignoring your inner child, you decide to listen. That when you feel insecure, instead of attacking yourself for it, you ask where that insecurity comes from. That when you fear abandonment, instead of desperately seeking someone to assure you they won't leave, you remind yourself that no matter what, you'll never abandon yourself. This is the shift in perspective that transforms lives, stopping the search for what's outside and realizing it's always been within. Jung said the process of individuation is the journey to wholeness, and wholeness is only possible when we integrate all our parts, including the ones we've tried to hide. In that process, the inner child plays a crucial role because it's the source of our joy, our ability to love without fear, our connection to the world. When we reconnect with it, life stops being a constant struggle and starts feeling more authentic, lighter, because we stop living from lack and start living from fullness. Every time you choose to ignore your inner child, every time you demand more of yourself than you can give, every time you downplay your own pain to fit what you think you should be, you're reinforcing that disconnection. But every time you choose to listen, every time you give yourself the love and validation you've always sought outside, you're taking a step toward healing. And on that path, little by little, you start noticing changes. Your anxiety lessens, your need for approval becomes less urgent, your relationships grow healthier, not because the world changed, but because you did. This work doesn't happen overnight. It's an ongoing process, a daily choice to treat yourself with more love and less judgment. But every small step you take, every moment you choose to be kinder to yourself, brings you closer to real happiness, the kind that doesn't depend on anything or anyone because it comes from within. When you start treating your inner child with love, understanding, and patience, something inside you unlocks. You realize many of the barriers holding you back weren't external, they were internal. It wasn't a lack of opportunities, others' rejection, or the harshness of the world stopping you. It was the relationship you had with yourself. The voice you once heard telling you weren't enough, didn't deserve love, or couldn't trust life left a deep mark in your unconscious. But that voice wasn't the truth. It was just a belief imposed by past experiences, and when you start challenging it, when you decide to rewrite the story, change becomes inevitable. Jung talked about the importance of bringing darkness into the light, making the unconscious conscious. Because if you don't, it'll keep running your life, and you'll call it fate. Think about all the patterns that have repeated over and over in your life. Relationships that end the same way, opportunities that slip away just as you're about to grab them. Situations that leave you feeling helpless without knowing why. None of that's a coincidence. They're reflections of your inner child's unhealed wounds. It's their way of getting your attention, begging you to look, to listen, to help them heal. Every time you feel an intense emotional reaction, every time something affects you more than it should, it's a sign. Not from the present, but from the past. It's as if time folds and the wounded child inside relives that experience again, like it's happening now. But it's not real. You're not the helpless child you once were. Today you have tools, awareness, the power to protect yourself and give yourself what others couldn't. And when you do, when you choose to respond with love instead of fear, when you allow yourself to feel without judgment, when you decide to care for yourself instead of punish, something inside you changes forever. Throughout life, we've learned to build walls. We convince ourselves that if we're strong enough, keep our guard up, and avoid being seen as vulnerable, no one can hurt us. But what we don't realize is those walls don't just block pain. They block love, connection, true happiness. We think we're protecting ourselves when we're really isolating ourselves from what we truly want and need. And the key to tearing down those walls isn't in doing more, trying harder, or proving more. It's in going back to the root, healing the relationship with our inner child. Connecting with your inner child isn't an act of nostalgia or a game of imagination. It's an act of reconnecting with the purest part of your being. It's remembering who you were before the world told you who you should be. It's letting yourself feel without fear, shame, or censorship. It's reclaiming your sense of wonder, creativity, and unconditional love. Because that child never left. It's always been there, waiting for you to look it in the eyes and say, "I'm here. You're not alone anymore." Every step you take on this path brings you closer to a meaningful life. A life where you don't have to keep running from yourself, where you don't need to prove anything to anyone, where you can just be. And when that happens, when you let yourself exist without the weight of the past, the world around you changes too. Relationships become more genuine, opportunities come more easily, happiness stops being an unreachable ideal and becomes a present reality. Jung showed us that life isn't about reaching an ideal version of ourselves. It's about integrating all our parts. It's not about eliminating fear, but understanding it. Not about always being strong, but knowing when to let ourselves be vulnerable. Not about erasing the past, but making peace with it. And it all starts when you decide to connect with your inner child. That part of you that's always been waiting to be seen, loved, and accepted. This is the moment to take the first step, to stop hiding from yourself, to look inward with honesty and compassion, to tell yourself what you've always wanted to hear. Because when you do, when you finally give yourself the love you've always sought, everything changes. Life stops being a struggle and becomes a dance. You stop surviving and start truly living. Every time you choose to reconnect with your inner child, you're doing more than healing past wounds. You're rewriting your present and transforming your future. You're breaking invisible chains that have limited your happiness, your self-worth, and your ability to love authentically. But here's something important to know. This process doesn't happen overnight. One moment of introspection won't change a lifetime of unconscious patterns. It takes patience, commitment, and above all, self-love. Self-love isn't just an abstract concept or a motivational phrase. It's a daily practice. It's how you talk to yourself when you make a mistake. It's the decision to prioritize yourself without guilt. It's learning to recognize which relationships and situations nourish you and which just drain your energy. And it all begins with the relationship you have with your inner child. Think about how you act when something hurts. Do you let yourself feel it, or do you ignore it and push forward like nothing happened? Often, without realizing it, we treat our emotions the same way we were taught to as kids. If we were told crying was weak, we probably hold back tears today when we're sad. If we were made to believe anger was bad, we avoid confrontation even if it means betraying ourselves. But those emotions don't vanish just because you ignore them. They stay, piling up, waiting to be acknowledged. Jung taught us that what we repress doesn't disappear. It shows up in other ways. If you don't let your inner child express what it feels, those emotions will find a way out, whether through anxiety, health issues, rocky relationships, or a constant sense of dissatisfaction with life. The problem is, we're often so disconnected from ourselves that we don't realize it all stems from within. True healing happens when you learn to listen to yourself. When instead of brushing off what you feel, you pause and ask, where's this coming from? What part of me needs attention right now? It can be tough at first because we're used to running from our emotions instead of facing them. But the more you practice this level of awareness, the easier it gets. You start noticing patterns, recognizing what triggers past wounds, and little by little, instead of reacting automatically, you learn to respond differently. Remember, this process isn't about blaming anyone for what happened in your childhood. It's not about finding fault or staying stuck in a victim role. It's about taking responsibility for your own healing. Because while we can't change what happened, we can decide what we do with it. We can keep carrying it as a burden, or use it as a chance to grow. Imagine how your life would change if instead of repeating the same patterns, you started acting from a new perspective. If instead of seeking others' validation, you learned to give it to yourself. If instead of fearing rejection, you trusted you're enough as you are. If instead of living with anxiety about the future, you could find peace in the present moment. All this is possible when you start healing your relationship with your inner child. As you reconnect with that part of you, you begin to remember what truly makes you happy. You regain the ability to play, to laugh without fear, to dream without limits. You start making choices based on what you really want, not what you think you should do to please others. And over time, this transformation reflects in every area of your life. Your relationships become more authentic because you're no longer looking to others to fill voids within you. Your confidence grows because you realize the love and acceptance you've always sought outside were inside you all along. There's nothing more freeing than realizing you don't need to be perfect to be worthy of love, that you don't have to prove anything to anyone to be enough. That happiness isn't some far-off place waiting for you to reach it. It's in how you choose to live each day. And it all starts with one simple act: looking inward, listening to your inner child, and telling it what it's always needed to hear. When you let yourself reconnect with your inner child, something profound shifts in you. It's not just healing, it's a rebirth. You start realizing that many of the things that used to worry you, make you doubt yourself or cause you distress, were just reflections of unattended wounds. And when you decide to give them the space they deserve, when you choose to treat them with love instead of ignoring them, life transforms. The fear of rejection weakens because you understand you don't need others to validate your worth. Anxiety about the future fades because you start trusting you can handle whatever comes. The sense of emptiness dissolves because you discover happiness isn't in what's missing. It's in everything already within you. And above all, you start feeling freer, lighter, more authentic. But this isn't the end of the journey. It's just the beginning. Healing the inner child isn't a one-time event, it's an ongoing process. It takes commitment, patience, and self-love. There'll be days you feel at peace and others when the wounds resurface. But now, instead of fighting them, repressing them, or judging yourself for feeling them, you'll know what to do. You'll know every emotion that comes up is a chance to deepen your relationship with yourself, to keep growing and evolving. Imagine how the world would change if more people did this work. If instead of projecting their pain onto others, everyone took responsibility for their own healing. If instead of looking for someone to blame, we gave ourselves the love and understanding we've always needed. This is the kind of transformation that can change not just one life, but an entire society. And this is where you come in. This message isn't just for you, it's for everyone who needs to hear it. There are thousands, even millions of people trapped in the same suffering without knowing there's a way out. People repeating the same patterns, feeling disconnected from themselves, believing happiness is out of reach. But you have the power to get this message to more people. If this reflection resonated with you, if at any point it felt like it described exactly what you've been through, I invite you to leave a comment. Share your experience. Tell me what part touched your heart, what takeaway you're walking away with from this message. Your story could inspire someone else who's searching for answers too. And if you know someone who needs to hear this, send it to them. Maybe someone around you is going through a tough time, and this could be the key to help them see their situation in a new light. Together, we can build a community where healing, growth, and awareness are the path to a fuller life. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell so you don't miss the next videos. Every time you share, comment, or engage with this content, you're helping more people access this information and transform their lives. This isn't just a video, it's a movement of people choosing to wake up, to look inward, to dare to let go of what no longer serves them, and embrace life with a fresh perspective. So tell me in the comments, what part of this message hit home for you? What are you going to do starting today to reconnect with your inner child? I'm reading you. See you in the next video.